Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Supermarketers Podcast. My name is Gen Furukawa, and this is where AI meets marketing. And we're very lucky today to have Tom Winter, who is the co-founder of SEOwind. And Tom, you are a renowned expert in SEO, LLMs, and would love to hear more about your unique approach and strategy to it. So, first of all, thanks for joining. And then would love to just start with a quick background on where you're at, what you're doing with SEOwind.
Perfect. Thank you again for inviting me to this podcast. And it's really amazing to be here. I hope to give you as much feedback and as much things that you can implement and use as possible. So going back to your question, I'm the founder at SEOwind, which is an AI writing tool, but we focus on the research part. We do big workflows with AI agents inside to be able to mimic what you normally do as a human when you're content writing, to pull all the data that you need to give it to AI in a digestible form, just to take all the puzzles, both like from your page, from SERP results, from different places on the internet, to be able to pull statistics, quotes, and everything that we need for the AI writing process. And based on that, we write the articles and then we rewrite them, proofread them, and so on and so forth. Like we probably rewrite the whole article multiple times. And we do the same thing with updating content. This is what we focus on, and we want to differentiate ourselves from vanilla LLMs because like competing with ChatGPT, Claude makes no sense. They're really amazing tools. So we focus on the research just to pull it all for you, to simplify the process of writing something that is not fluff, it's valuable, and it's not hallucinated all over the place.
For sure. Yeah, fantastic. So let's dig in because I think the interesting thing about a software is a lot of it happens kind of like in a black box where I would say, all right, let's write a post about, IT governance.
Mhm.
And then it comes back with a whole bunch of research. But can you walk me through what the manual process of that would be if I didn't have a tool to automate it, if I didn't have AI, like what would the process be of doing the best approach to research for a piece of content?
So whenever I'm talking about the process, like I'm calling it SaaS, like you know SaaS, like you're an expert in SaaS. So SaaS is a software as a service. I'm like going back to something that I call HaaS. HaaS is human as a service. So if you have an SOP, standardized like procedures for certain thing, this is how you should probably approach using LLMs. For some reason, people want to use them like that, like just one-click solutions. They want to go to LLM, ask them, what is the outline for this and that, and please write me an article based on this outline. And it doesn't work. Why? For a specific reason, I use LLMs as a logical engine, not a search engine. What does it mean? So logical engine is similar to your brain. If you're an expert in a specific topic, how you use your brain for that, you basically still do the research. You go to Google, you check the SERP results, you pull the data from there just to understand like what are the new facts, what are the key things that Google thinks is the search intent. Then you start writing the outline and the brief based on this data. So you're pulling the data from there. You probably go to some kind of a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush to pull the keywords to understand the entity. So not only what are the main topics, but what you should focus on. Of course, keyword stuffing is not as important as it was like a couple of years ago, but at the moment, what we can use the keywords for is like to understand the entities that we should cover. And again, you would use your brain as a logical engine, pulling this data and compiling it all together to create a brief. Once you would have a brief, what you would do as a human, you would probably ask yourself, what additional data do I need to make it more valuable? So you would go to your own page, you would treat your own page as a special matter expert, you would go to your product team, you would go to maybe marketing team, maybe you would talk to the customers, you will pull the data from there, then you would ask yourself a question, do I need any statistics, quotes, citations, looking at my brief, so heading by heading, where should I put some additional data? I would look for that. So I would have a hypothesis. I would look for that. If I would be able to find it like what I thought I want, then I would just pull it. And if not, then I would pivot from that. And then when I would have all this data, I would start writing as a human because I could take all these puzzles together and put it together. And then I would write, then I would probably proofread, then I would add internal links and so on and so forth. So the whole process is like put into pieces. And when we're using AI, all of a sudden we want to change our perfect SOP, so the procedure that we have to create something of quality, into one-click solution. And we're trying to pull the data from AI that it doesn't know. So instead of finding all these data points and telling AI, look, AI, I want to write this and this. Like for this specific heading, my special matter expert said this and this. For this specific heading, I have these statistics from this resource. I have our own case study. I have this and this for this. And then AI could digest it and write based on that. We're actually asking it to produce the data. I don't know why, because we're trying to use it as a research engine, not a logical engine. And I believe it's a logical engine. So it's all about taking all of this context and putting it together. But to be honest, looking at our system, if I would copy exactly the same things that we do in our system, and that's possible, and go to ChatGPT, Claude, or whichever model that I want, and pull this data, it would take me probably a day to create an article of a similar value, because there's so many data points and we're using vectors and we're using different things to match things together, not to overwhelm AI. So we're using context engineering at scale to be able to provide in each specific step all the information that AI needs. It would take me 8 hours knowing the prompts, knowing exactly what I'm doing, and a huge headache at the end of the day to create something similar. I can't
Yeah.
compete with machines.
Yeah, no, that for sure is a given. So the ultimate output would be the same. It's just a matter of taking the time to think through what the semantic
Exactly.
related terms would be, and then yeah, obviously it would take a lot more time.
But the ROI like makes no sense. So
Yeah.
why would you do it as a human? Like makes really no sense.
So if you could shed some light and share like what an ideal SOP might look like what are those benchmarks if you do pass this along to a human as a service and you say, all right, we want to, let's just use an example of like how to increase email open rates.
Mhm.
How many like statistics might we include? The HTML tables, the graphics, the quotes, multimedia, like all these things. There's so many different things that an LLM is pulling
Mhm.
from that it gets overwhelming. But I'd love to learn from your perspective of what that benchmark is, what that checklist looks like.
So I will use the favorite word of every SEO expert, which is it depends. And basically, it's not one system fits all of it. Because when we're like going back to the content, for example, when we're doing a comparison, it's like totally a different piece of content than when we're doing expert post like about a specific thing. Like so you can't compare it together. That's why like AI agents come into place in all the situations where the workflow or the SOP is not linear. So like we can say, for example, if we have a brief, we could say for every single heading or for every article, find 2 statistics. That will increase my EAT, so expertise, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Does it make sense? No, because it can be a comparison and it might not make sense. Or I can talk about blueberries. Should I find like a statistic about blueberries? Probably not. Like, so we have to find these gems. Like, what do we need to focus on for every single reason? And I love to talk about it because, in my opinion, at the moment, like when I'm focusing on any specific content, I'm focusing on Google's EAT. So experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. But you have to measure that. You have to be able to say, like, what is it? And how is it on the scale of 1 to 10 for every single factor? I'm on many conferences and a lot of speakers are talking about like, oh, you have to optimize for EAT. And I'm the asshole raising the hand and saying like, okay, I agree. But how do you measure that? And they say like, oh, we don't. Like, we don't know. Like, it's intuition. Like, it's obvious, right? And it's like, okay, let's say it's obvious. So you have a piece of content, then you optimize it to make it better for EAT. So you have like optimized piece of content. How do you know which one is better? It's like we updated it. Like, so this one that we updated is better. And like, but how? Like, of course, like you will say that the updated version like is better. You just put in 4 hours of your time to make it better, but you don't know if you actually made it better because you don't measure it. So this is what I'm trying to tell people. Like, you have to define how good looks like. And how good looks like is one of the toughest questions you can ask yourself. So whatever you're doing, if you're doing a piece of content or you're doing an email, you have to actually understand and define how good looks like. If you want to go to LLM and ask it to create something that is good, and if you don't know how the good looks like, we have a problem. Like, it will make things up. Like, it will make decisions for you. Are they good? Who knows? Maybe yes, maybe no. And this is really a tough question. I've talked to many agencies because one of the things that we're doing internally, we give services to agencies. So we create content as contractors for agencies. And one of the first questions that we always ask is, can you tell us how good content for you looks like? Not many can answer. So like, we're simplifying the question, telling them, okay, so can you send over a good piece of content that you're willing to send to a customer? You definitely have one, right? They still have a problem with that. So it's really hard to define. And whatever you're doing, I really encourage you to be able to tell and find a quantifiable way to identify if this is good or not. In our system, we have multiple quality gates. At every single stage of the process of writing, we have a quality gate where we define how good looks like for a specific stage. If we don't reach a quality at a specific state, like, we iterate. So we know that we need to get to this to be able to go further.
That makes a lot of sense, especially if you are doing that white label service, and you need to have that for your agencies. But can you quantify that? Like, I'm still not sure I understand, like, for EAT, for example, how do I know what Tom's experience or expertise is in SEO, like, as a number?
So we try to quantify it using LLMs because it's not something that is easy to measure. You probably know, like, if you're an SEO expert, you probably know that on the market, there's like multiple graders of your content. Like, so they basically, I call them keyword stuffing graders, because like, the more keywords you put into your article, the better your grade is. And I strongly disagree with them, because keyword stuffing doesn't mean, from the LLM's perspective, that you're actually talking about the entity and you're an expert in a specific area, and you're not showing your authoritativeness and so on and so forth. Like, it's not working. I've tested it out because I love to hack things in SEO, and I tested it out. I actually bet that it will help. It didn't. So they only exist because it's easy for SEO experts to actually identify the things that they can do for a customer. And this is the only reason that I see it's working. But basically, what you can do, you can define exactly how do you know on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can create a whole table how to identify a specific level of what you want to do. This is like how we do it. We have a huge prompt, extremely big prompt, with a lot of information on how we define specific levels of content for every single factor. And we're able to evaluate a specific content by using that. And we're using that to define where we want to head. And if we know where we want to head, we know how to structure the whole process. Because finally, we know which way we're going. Like, if you want to go to New York, you basically open up Google Maps and you find the path to go to New York, and you're following it. If you don't know where New York is, like, you will not know how to get there.
Yeah, that is totally true. But for your, like, things obviously have changed a lot, and you kind of alluded to the content rankings, or quantifying it based on how many keywords are in there. But then also, maybe one other way to quantify it might be these LLM visibility trackers, like a Profound type tool. Try Profound. How are you seeing the change with LLMs and answer engine optimization, where people are actually now shifting how they're creating content, right? So it might now be more about the citations and mentions as opposed to organic traffic. How are you seeing the shift in terms of, like, what clients are looking for ROI, and how are they measuring and putting a number to that the content is actually working?
Okay, so like, there are two questions at least there. So I'll try to start with like the change that is happening on the market. So we're moving from ranking pages to resolving problems. And this is like where we're like changing. So earlier, like 2 years ago, what Google served us, whenever we asked a question, they gave us like 10 answers telling us like, look, find your answer. Like, it's somewhere there among these 10, like, you have to choose one. Of course, they wanted to give you the best possible answer. But when we went to an expert 2 years ago, like from a specific niche, Instead of like typing a keyword into the search engine saying like best tools for XYZ, we would ask the same question to an expert like, hey dude, did you use any tools that you would recommend me for doing this or that? And they would tell you one answer, like probably, or maybe like two answers, telling like, you know what, like use ClickUp if you're doing this and this, and if not, then Asana will be a better tool for you for this and that. Like this is resolving a problem. And this is where AI is. AI is currently the expert that will tell us what to do. They will not tell us like choose one of these answers, but actually tries to resolve the problem. And this is the biggest change when it comes to how we see it and how we use it. And we see like SEO experts see this change in Google Search Console. So the keywords are turning into conversations, and we can see that they're getting longer, more conversational, and definitely it works. So when it comes to how to measure it, from my perspective, the best way to measure it is actually Google Analytics, just to see how many people are going to your page from a specific source, because it's easy to measure and understand, and it's quantifiable. If we're using trackers, this is the best way. Probably trackers like AI LLM trackers are the best way to understand are we there or not, apart from going to analytics, because you can see it from referral traffic. But they have some problems. Like the issue is that when you're going to a tracker, the tracker first defines potentially how people will search for your brand. So it will define questions that it will track. And then it will try to evaluate every single day or like every other day. Are you there or not? Like, so what is your visibility based on, let's say, 20 questions that we just invented? Is it correct? No, because it's probably half of the percent of the whole picture, because we're asking, let's say, 20, 100 questions, 1,000 questions, doesn't matter. Like the count is like limited somehow, and it will be 1% of the whole picture. So it will not be accurate. It will tell us something. We will probably optimize for these specific questions, but we don't know if this is how people are asking about our brand. Of course, like people are looking for new solutions. I think SEMrush or like some other solution figured out that they will ask a couple of million questions, and they will use all the questions to track the visibility among all their customers, which makes a lot more sense because the picture is already bigger. But like still, I would prefer to have a Google Search Console that will track things from LLMs, but it's not possible. We don't have it. So trackers are one of the best solutions out there with the limited resources that we have.
Yeah. So what I'm taking from you is like, you'd rather take a smaller sample size, which is actually the click-throughs. And so that's more of like the citations, people clicking through on the mention and assuming that it's actually that they're using the AI overviews or a chat. And then you're seeing it in analytics. And you're kind of like forgetting about, all right, well, they're building up the brand awareness and the mentions in the actual chat. That's super hard to measure. Everybody's got their own personalized answer and context. So we're just going to kind of throw that away.
I would focus on analytics, because analytics will show us a trend if we're growing the traffic from a specific source or not. And this is the only answer that we will get. We will still not know what these people are searching for, which is a problem.
Yeah. Now, I'd love to get kind of like in the nitty gritty, and especially because you have the unique perspective of both having SEOwind as a SaaS platform, but then also doing the actual work as an agency. So say a brand came to you and they're like, I want to take advantage of this. I think a lot of brands are starting to think about this or need to think about this. But can you walk me through what your playbook might be, what you would consider for how to improve visibility, how to get more of that LLM traffic in, say, 90 days?
So definitely, I would start from researching and identifying entities that I would like to go after. Like this is the key part, and I would niche down. I have this strategy focused on atomic, like in subparticles, kind of like to understand exactly how we can niche down to a specific topic. Because of course, we would all love to be, let's say, the authority of the whole marketing, but to do that, you have to go through certain steps. So let's have a plumber, like as an example. If you're a plumber and you want to start your business, you would probably start within a specific area of a specific city. So let's go with Austin, because I know that you're from Austin, we would go like with a specific area. We would find like places that we can help out, and we would probably limit our services to a specific plumbing service. Like we would not go like with all the plumbing possibilities, and then we would slowly grow our company, maybe with additional services, maybe with additional areas. Then we would cover Austin, then we would cover like Texas, and then we would like go over like the whole United States. But like we would gradually grow the whole niche with services and with like the outreach. And all of a sudden, like when people are creating SaaS, they say like, no, we're going globally with everything. It's like, no, niche down, like be specifically really good in a very small area, be better 10x than anybody else on the market, and show it. Like be the, like from the content perspective, be the Wikipedia of this specific niche. So be the expert, be the authority of this specific niche, and create this pond that Google and LLMs will let you in. And then slowly grow this pond, like add services, add expertise around it to be able to do it. But to do it, like you have to start with the research to identify exactly what is your business about. Like what are you doing? What are the keywords? What are the entities that people are looking for? And then starting working with that. Then I would start to work on content and on authority. So from the content perspective, like we would build a content calendar just to be able to cover the things that we want to do. We would add our expertise, opinions, and everything else connected to that. If we have already content, I would try to optimize it for AO. When it comes to optimization for LLMs, they like a couple of things. So first of all, to chunk it up, like the content. So they like to have answers like in chunks. Why? Because when they go to a specific page and when they scrape the content, they use a way of understanding exactly the content by chunking it up and turning it into a vector database. Then when you ask a question, they're able to find the how far the answer that you gave is from the question by using vectors and just understanding like how far these things are. They're pulling that, and based on that, they're answering the question. If your answer is closest and has authority, probably they will pull it and be able to answer based on your information. But to do it, they have to chunk up your article into pieces. So like the whole thing is like if you have a topic in the article and the article is long, to be able to chunk it up. Like so tables cover specific amount of information. Then like if you're thinking about a heading, like this heading covers the whole thing, not that like at the start of the article you have one thing, then at the end you have another one. You have an FAQ section and so on. Technical SEO is another thing that is really important because crawlers that LLMs use, apart from Google, are, I would say, a couple of years back to what Google has right now. And they still focus on schema markup, alt, like anything in the code to make it easy for them to use. So if you, for example, have a page that is focused on JavaScript rendering, something that is a no-go when it comes to SEO, LLMs will probably have a problem with parsing it and understanding what's on the page. So like focus on technical SEO. Another thing that I'm currently testing out is that you have to start the article with information that a good intro that shows that it's worth reading the whole article. Why? It's a simple reason. When we want to read something as humans, we go through the articles, we just like scan it and look at it, like especially like at the beginning of the article, and we decide, do we want to spend 5 minutes on reading the whole article or not? And LLMs are not much different. Why? Because they try to save tokens. Tokens means they don't want to go over the whole article if they don't have to, because they have to go through millions of articles. They will try to make a decision at the beginning. Do they want to parse it or not? Do they want to actually use their engine, like the computer engine, to go through it or not? So that's why like the beginning of the article makes a lot of sense, and identifying all the things in the article to parse them makes another thing. So I would create content. Then I would go outside of the pages to create the authority. So when it comes to the authority, parasite SEO works for LLMs. Like, so if you can actually use the authority of LinkedIn, YouTube, Reddit, and everything else, definitely use it. There's like multiple studies at the moment showing that LLMs are scraping content from authority pages. And LinkedIn, for example, is a perfect example where you can also post like a blog post. If the other thing that you can use for creating authority, you can actually go to LLMs, ask a specific question, then ask like, where did you find the information that you based it from? And then it will provide you with some URLs. Of course, some will be hallucinated, some not. Go to these URLs. Probably AI crawled these pages already. If you can contact the owner and put yourself there somehow, like probably they will crawl it again and they will use it as a valid source. So this is another way of building authority on pages that were already scraped by AI. And probably this is the thing. I would define exactly what EAT, so like what good looks like, and would try to achieve it. Hopefully I answered your question.
You sure did. That was super thorough. So yeah, you're starting with your research. You're identifying what your entities are. I guess you're creating the content. You're creating it with technical SEO. You're creating it specific to staying on one topic, and then building authority with links. You certainly did deliver on your promise of making it actionable and specific. Thank you for that. I do have one question though, because you are such a wealth of AI, and you mentioned earlier that you like to hack, and clearly it shows. What is one helpful use case of AI? And in this case, it might just be like, a general LLM like ChatGPT that would be helpful for marketers.
I would say to treat it as your teammate. Like, so definitely talk to it and deliver treat it as a teammate, I would say. Once you go over and you don't think it's just a tool, it starts to make a lot more sense. I will tell you a story from one of my developers. Like, I'm a developer myself, and one of my developers, when they were creating one specific feature, he came to me and said like, look, Tom, we just created like this and this, and that was like, this feature is amazing, you have to see it. And it's like, okay, who the hell are we? And he's like, nah, me and Claude, like I was using Claude Code, and like we basically did it together. Like he did it on the front end, I did the back end. Like we connected it, like it works like a charm. It's like, okay, so now we're a team. This is like amazing that you realize that like we already passed like using AI as a tool. We're working with it together. And once you understand that you can work with it together and you can make decisions together and influence, of course, as a human, like you can influence the decision, you can steer it in the right direction, and that will change your life. Like I would say, but it takes time to get to this point.
Yeah, that is a great point. And yeah, you're maybe creating one project for a specific brand or use case, add as much context as possible, PDFs, CSVs, and then yeah, the voice feature. So literally talking to it like a teammate. I do that a lot, and I highly recommend it as well.
I feel extremely awkward when talking to computer, like using my voice. Like voice typing is something, I'm a dinosaur already. So like I'm a boomer. So basically voice typing for me feels extremely awkward. So like I'm still typing it on my keyboard. But like definitely it makes a lot of sense to talk to it as a friend, as an expert, as a teammate.
Yeah. Tom, thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. I really appreciate everything that you've shared. What's the best place to find you online?
Find me on LinkedIn. So just type in Tom Winter on LinkedIn. I basically live there. And if you want to try out SEOwind, just find SEOwind.io and register there. Have fun with using the trial.
No kidding. Tom Winter, thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. It was really a pleasure to be here. Hopefully I delivered a little bit of things that you can implement the next day.
Most definitely.
Thanks a lot.